Well, welcome back, everyone. It is Sunday, March 13th. Welcome to the No Sunday Scaries Club. Glad you're here. Um, Mike, how are you over there in Philly?
I'm great. I'm full of energy. I feel like it's 7 o'clock. It's 8 o'clock.
Well,
Ready to get to bed and start Monday.
I hear you. So, and I think everybody is, and I want to take a second to honor everyone that's joined us here. Thanks for being here live. This is going to be a little bit of a different format from our first couple Sunday Scaries Club meetings. Really want a lot of participation tonight. We're gonna, I feel like the first couple sessions were awesome having Jimmy and Josh with us. And by the way, the podcasts are now live. We've been really quiet about it. You can go onto Spotify and check out the No Sunday Scaries podcast if you want to, re-listen to any of the first two weeks. They're both now out there. You can obviously share them with friends who missed it. Tonight, since we've had a chance to kind of sit back and listen to a lot of folks, we wanted to really make this a participatory session where we're really analyzing and talking about some of our tactics and strategies together, because there's a lot of power just in this group. So Mike and I have some prepared material, and certainly urge everyone to participate as well, as we, to Mike's point, get prepared to have an awesome Monday morning. For those who maybe it's your first time joining, the main mission of this group is to recognize that, as the sun starts to set, like it's maybe doing around you, depending on where you are right now, some people start to experience a range of emotions as they begin to imagine what it'll feel like to enter the work week, or maybe the school week, or maybe a week without either of those, as I'm entering into spring break week with the kids. And this is commonly known as the Sunday Scaries, and you may have other names for it. And this club is on a mission to make Sunday nights inspiring and uplifting for everyone, and really just make a connection. And that's why I love Zoom as much as I, sometimes dislike Zoom. It is nice to see some smiling faces for once. It's not often that a lot of my Zooms have smiling people on them. So this really feels good. So thanks for everyone who's able to have their camera on and smiling. And for those who are actually listening to this as a podcast, just so you know, you can actually join us Sunday nights live, or actually watch the videos of these sessions on our YouTube channel actually too. So with that said,
And
Mike,
to sign up, sorry, Jake, to sign up for that link, it's nosundayscaries.club. And you go onto the website, sign up, it's free. And it'll give you a calendar reminder every Sunday at 8 o'clock for you to join us here.
Yeah. And so we've been booking out into April of, it's 2022 now, for those who are listening after the fact, booking out the next couple of weeks of Sunday speakers. And Mike, want to give a preview? We've got an Abraham Hicks expert. So for those of you who love the law of attraction or are skeptical of it, either one, we have an expert coming to join us in the next couple of weeks. Mike, you've booked a couple interesting folks. You want to share who? Maybe give a tease. Maybe not their names, but a tease of who they are or what they do.
Yeah. So I believe next week, the 20th, we have an ex-Marine, ultra marathoner, has climbed some of the most dangerous, treacherous peaks in the United States. So Hal Carmine will be joining us next week. And then from there, we're lining up dates for April, but we will have a Major League Baseball player join us from the Arizona Diamondbacks, Zach Gallen. He will join us in April. And we are going to have Shara Senderoff join us as well. She is an entrepreneur shooting up the ladder in the music industry, just named one of the top 40 under 40 with Billboard magazine. Yeah. So she started all kinds of businesses, works with names like Scooter Braun. So we'll be very fortunate to be able to pick her brain in April as well. So we're very excited. We have a lot of value that I think we're bringing everybody at a time when I think it's really important to kind of focus in and reset yourself and get your head on straight for what's to come next week.
Yeah. With that said, Mike, do you want to maybe do a little intro to our conversation this evening and get us thinking about the main topic for tonight?
Yeah. So as Jake said, we want tonight to be really participatory and give everyone a chance to kind of interact and converse around, really anything that is, piquing your interest or top of mind for you. Jake and I are going to introduce a couple of concepts or thoughts and to get the conversation going. And whenever I'm coming into Sunday night, I'm always thinking about awareness. And one of my favorite commencement speeches ever was given by a gentleman named David Foster Wallace. David Foster Wallace was an author who wrote the novel Infinite Jest. Admittedly, I've picked it up and put it down about 30 times. It's about a 2,000 page brick. And it's a brilliant book, very, very, very interesting and well written. But David gave a commencement speech, and the beginning of his commencement speech went something like this. I'm paraphrasing. There's two small fish swimming along, and they pass a bigger fish going the other way. The bigger fish turns to the two small fish and says, "Good morning, boys. How's the water?" So the two small fish continue to swim along, and after a while, one of them turns to the other and says, "What the hell is water?" The point is that the most obvious things, the things that surround us every day, that pass right by us unknowingly, are the things that sometimes are the most important. And if we don't take time to stop and think about them, then literally life just passes us right by. So whenever I'm struggling, and admittedly I'm coming tonight pretty vulnerable with some stuff going on personally in my life, whenever I find myself in those situations, I always think back to that and try to center myself around what is true, what is real, what can I ground myself to that helps me to block out the noise and focus on the things that are really important in life, and slow myself down to enjoy them. So just thinking about that and thinking about the people in my life right now that need that type of support, I wanted to kind of impart that on everyone here. So I encourage you to listen to the whole commencement speech that David Foster Wallace gave. You can look it up on YouTube. It also is a nice little book that a publisher went in and made of it. I always gift them out. They're like $5, and I think they're a great little gift, a little nice thing to have on your coffee table. But again, just bringing myself back to the awareness around what is real and what is true and what's really important, I think is always a good exercise.
Yeah. I appreciate that. And we're thinking of you as well, Mike. And in rewatching that video, which I've actually put in the chat box for those who haven't seen it yet, you can jump on and check that out after this. It made me think of the awareness around the fact that the fish were swimming in water weren't aware of that. It ties to me this conversation I think we have a lot about, which ties into our Sunday night scaries here, which is happiness and this never ending kind of chicken and egg conversation around when I achieve this, or when I have this, or when I am this, I will be happy. I will be whatever, insert whatever adjective there you want. And I think to some, Sunday nights is something the reason I think it causes anxiety is maybe we're not clear on what in fact that will be, that will create the happiness, or rather maybe we're scared we'll never even have it in the first place. So it's kind of serendipitous, but a couple of weeks ago I was attending an event, and Sean Acor was actually the keynote speaker. He's a New York Times bestselling author, recent publication called The Happiness Advantage, which I have here in front of me here. And I don't know if there's anyone else on the call that reads books like I do, but I put sticky notes in when there's things I like. Makes it hard to put them on the bookshelf, but easy to find things when you want to find them. And Sean led about a 2-hour discussion around his study over the past 25 years on happiness. And it was fascinating. There's some scary things in the research. There was some fascinating things. So I brought a couple passages to read but not only for us to think about, but also to drive conversation and comment too. And so, I guess to start it off, I think it's interesting just to define the word happiness, or at least have scientists do it for us. So according to the book and what Sean writes here, so how do scientists define happiness? Essentially, as the experience of positive emotions, dash pleasure combined with deeper feelings of meaning and purpose. So I'll read that again. Essentially, the experience of positive emotions is what happiness is, but that's pleasure combined with deeper feelings of meaning and purpose. Happiness implies a positive mood in the present and a positive outlook for the future. Martin Seligman, the pioneer in positive psychology, has broken it down into 3 measurable components. Okay. So for those of you taking notes, pleasure, engagement, and meaning. Those are the aspects of happiness. His studies have confirmed, though most of us know this intuitively, that people who pursue only pleasure experience only part of the benefits happiness can bring, while those who pursue all 3, pleasure, engagement, and meaning, lead the most fulfilled lives. So I think that was interesting, just to Mike's point about stopping and some awareness around this. Okay, there's a bunch of words that we use a lot, I feel like in our vocabulary now. One is like happiness, or, and it's like, well, what does that even mean? So this was interesting to kind of look at these in 3, like pleasure, engagement, and meaning. Really slowed me down to like, I was like, okay, now I can think about this and with more context and bring that to our Sunday night conversation about if I'm thinking about my week and I'm not thrilled about it, which of these, if not all 3, are missing? All right, so something to zoom in on: pleasure, engagement, and meaning. I know for me personally, where I tend to struggle is if there's lack of meaning, because I can create the rest. I can solve with personal relationships and people I like. Oh, I like them. It's fun going to work. But if meaning's not there, the whole pyramid falls down. Does that make sense?
I think I'm just going to shout out here, Jake, and anybody else who wants to put in the chat, which one of these you struggle with. I struggle with pleasure, and not so much that I can't find pleasure in things, but that I focus on things that don't bring me pleasure and get caught up too much in spending energy there.
Yeah. To the chicken and the egg point, there's another passage here I thought would be fun to share, to the point of when I achieve this, I'll be happy, or what have you. Sean writes, if happiness were just the end result of being successful, the prevailing creed at companies and schools would be correct. Focus on productivity and performance, even to the detriment of our emotional and physical well-being, and will eventually become more successful and therefore happier. But thanks to strives in positive psychology, this myth has been debunked. As the authors of the survey were able to say conclusively, study after study shows that happiness precedes important outcomes and indicators of thriving. In short, based on a wealth of data they compiled, they found that happiness causes success and achievement, not the opposite. I see some nodding heads there. So I guess let's think about this, and maybe everyone can go internal. Maybe you'll share some things. Maybe come off mute. When in your life did you feel the happiest, and most connected? And then take a moment and draw kind of a dotted line to other aspects of your life, and were you feeling levels of success there? I like if I break that down.
Can I reframe that question a little bit, Jake?
Sure.
Not when as in one time, were you at your happiest, but any happy moment. What are the times that you find yourself the happiest?
Yeah.
So for instance, I'm the happiest when I'm out on a run and I'm training and I feel good. My body and my mind are in lockstep.
Yeah. I think it's connected to, a lot of people make this comment, I've had my best ideas in the shower, right? You're calm, you're in a happy place, maybe comfortable, and all of a sudden your brain unlocks. Sky, I think you have a comment?
Yeah. I put it in the chat, but the concept we always talk about, 6 hammers, is healthy, selfish, right? Like that when I'm the happiest is when I'm actually doing these healthy, selfish things that are focused on the things I want to do. And then once again, to your 3 things, right? The things that bring me pleasure, engagement, and meaning. When I'm focused on those 3 things, which is like this concept of healthy, selfish, that's when I'm the happiest. And I think most of the time in this world, like, we're taught that happiness is tied to other people. And the minute we uncouple that concept is when we actually find the happiness within ourselves.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, oh, is that person mad at me? Is that person pleased with what I did? Are they happy with the job I did? Are they not, we operate in this world where we're constantly worrying about other people and the way they think,
Yeah.
and the reality is it's like, we just got to worry about ourselves, and then the rest of it sort of unfolds.
Well, for the people listening that actually know you, I think, Sky, here's a follow-up question for you. Actually, I'd love to hear your answer. You're viewed as a person that's always available, that's always going to bend over backwards and help out. I'd love to actually know, and I'm a close friend of yours, and I don't know the answer to this, but what do you actually do for you? What do you do that's selfish?
Yeah, I mean, so for me, I think I'm, Jake, with Gina, who you're going to have on, we've worked really, really hard on this concept. So for me, my mornings are eating. Obviously, everyone knows I do the 6 hours on 2 of the mornings, but the rest of the mornings are mine. Like, I don't touch email. I barely go into my phone, if anything, just to make sure, okay, like once the kids are off to school or whatever the case might be.
Mm-hmm.
So my mornings are like, that's the time for me that I focus the most on the things that I want to do. Right now with COVID ending, it's also about re-engaging in some of the friendships that are still there, but just haven't been watered, so to speak. Right. So a bunch of my Syracuse guys for the 26th, Mike, I think you're running on the 26th, the Love Run. A bunch of my Syracuse guys are actually coming in town and running it. And we're going to do a little get together, which is, that's a piece that I've missed, over the last 2 years, is that get together piece. So
it's the 27th though, Sky. Don't show up a day early.
Well, we're going to party all night through the 26th and show up at the race course with Leslie. Perfect. That's the plan. Perfect. So we're going to pretend like we're 19 again. So yeah. So I mean, those are the things that I love to do. Anything physical. I love doing anything physical. So
Jake, I just want to comment real quick on what Chris put in the chat. Chris, thank you for being vulnerable and sharing. Chris brings up the word balance. Happiest when I've been in a moment of balance. And I want to see what you think about substituting that word balance for harmony. Because, harmony is just a better context, a better connotation, right? Balance is something that we constantly feel like we have to be working for, right? But when we're in harmony, we can just stay there. So thank you, Chris, for sharing that.
So what is that? Tell us more about that, Mike. So what would be your definition of harmony?
Well, to me, it's just a different way of framing work-life balance, right? Which is everything that I do in my life is something that brings me positive energy, that inspires me, whether it's work or personal life. I can go A, B, I could do either one and feel like I'm always in that place of harmony. And if I ever feel like I'm getting away from it, then I know it's not something that I should be lending as much time and energy to, because it's taking me away from that place of harmony. So Chris, for instance, names things like, work is busy enough, but then being able to be home with family, being able to make time for exercise and take care of himself.
Jay, can I chime in for a second?
Oh yeah, of course, Ross. How you doing?
Good. How are you guys doing? It's funny, as you get older and being almost turning 65 in April, it's a lot of the balance is more, what you see your children, your family, clients. I had a closing, and to watch a young couple buy their first house and be so ecstatic about, going in and moving into that first house, or I saw my daughter get married this year, and just situations like that. It's always been for me, not so much for me, but, for other people, a couple of people on the thing here, just meeting them at the retreat after seeing them on a Zoom screen like this, and having that, that moment that's sort of like, wow, it's even better than I ever thought it could be. I think, those are the things that I think really, at least for me, pump me up and, really want me to do more for people around me and try to, give back and help them as much as I can.
Yeah.
Hey, Ross,
Okay,
I agree with you. I'm listening to the people who spoke at the beginning, and I'm with Russ. I'm only happy really when I'm with my kids, or my grown-up kids, or soon to be granddaughter, and getting deals through for clients and winning them for them. So it's more that outside myself rather than running, which I don't do. But recently, lost about 16 pounds. I'm really happy about that. So it's ongoing, but it's I was vacuuming the floor today, and I was thinking to myself, I'm really happy. So I think it's that it's not as there's a word I'm looking for, not contrived, but maybe it is contrived. It's just how you are. I mean, and who are with you.
Well, yeah, and by the way, I'm the same with a vacuum. My wife, I came home from a business trip and I instantly started vacuuming. My wife is like, "Why are you doing?" I'm like, it just makes me happy. I can't. The lines on the rug when they line up. If you know what I mean, you know what I mean. I don't know. I actually
we have 2 dogs, so they're very messy.
Me too. Yeah. Okay. Well, we can talk about that offline. But here's why it's important. So Sky brings up selfishness. I want to put some context. Sean writes about this in the book, The Happiness Advantage. The more we capitalize on the happiness advantage ourselves, the more we can impact the lives of those around us. Extraordinarily, recent research exploring the role of social networks in shaping human behavior has proven that much of our behavior is literally contagious, that our habits, attitudes, and actions spread through a complicated web of connections to infect those around us. In the groundbreaking book Connected, Nicholas Krasowski and James Fowler draw on years of research to show how our actions are constantly cascading and bouncing off each other in every which way and direction. Ties do not extend outward in straight lines like spokes on the wheel, they write. Instead, these paths double back on themselves and spiral around like tangled piles of spaghetti, weaving in and out on other paths and rarely ever leave the plate. This theory holds that our attitudes and behaviors don't only infect the people we interact with directly, like our colleagues, friends, and family, and those on this Zoom, but that each individual's influence actually appears to extend to people within 3 degrees. So when you use these principles to make positive changes in your life, you're unconsciously shaping the behavior of an incredible number of people. As James Fowler explains it, I know that I'm not just having an impact on my son, I'm potentially having an impact on my son's best friend's mother. This influence adds up. Fowler and Krasaskis estimate that there are nearly 1,000 people within 3 degrees of most of us. This is the true ripple effect. By trying to make ourselves happier and more successful, we actually have the ability to improve the lives of thousands of people around us. And I thought that was a pretty cool way to look at this, which is derived from Sky's point, some of the selfishness and finding those moments of vacuuming or being with the kids, having ice cream, walking the dog, whatever it is that makes you happy.
I think what you're saying is you're happiest when you're actually present, when you're in the moment. So much of our life is about planning. We have our calendars, we have what we have to do. And if you can actually be in the moment, appreciate it 100%, you can move on and be scheduled. But I think that's when everyone is happy.
Yeah.
If you're vacuuming and you're present, you're happy. Whatever, if you're running and you're in the moment, you're present. And what is the future? This is going to be really rough, but the future is death. We need to be present in the moment.
Yeah,
Happy
no doubt.
thought.
I'm sorry.
Truth.
Well, I think it's even more difficult to be happy right now watching what's on the television and what's happening in the world. One would almost look at that and say, wow, you should be happy for what you've got or where you are. But because look at what's happening, that's pretty stressful and depressing. So yeah, we should be happy if we have 3 squares a day and have a job that we love and we have people around us that we love and can care for. So be happy, appreciating the small things, what you have, because you may lose it in a flash. And that sounds kind of Debbie Downer, but I'm not trying to be.
No. I think everyone on this call is probably uses that as a motivator. I know I do. Sky and I have talked about this too. Like when I get feeling stuck, I'm like, well, I'm going to die one day, so I might as well just do it. And,
well,
so,
and that's back to the awareness, right? It's the present is the only thing that's real. The past doesn't exist. The future doesn't exist. The present is what matters. The present is what's real. And we need to be hyper aware of what's going on in the
That's
present.
true.
Be present with all your senses.
Hey, Jake, I got a question on this topic, because this is, I think, a real challenging one for a lot of people out there right now. Is like, because a lot of people from my conversations, like, they feel guilty right now being happy because of what's going on in the world. And I think it's a challenging concept because of the fact that there's not taking anything away of what's happening around the world or in our country or down the street. Yeah, obviously there's all kinds of stuff, but does that mean, and this is a philosophical question, I'm not saying I'm not going either way. The thing that comes to my mind, if there are tragedies going on around the world, does that mean we should not be happy?
No, we should be grateful for what we've got.
But this is this is a very important topic, right? Because a lot of people, I think, right now feel guilty feeling happiness, because they're like, oh my God, like everything, there's so much going on around the world. And it's a really interesting philosophical question to debate, right? Like,
I think you can compartmentalize. You can have empathy for what's going on in the world, and you can be appreciative of where you are, and the blessings and the joys that you have in the moment. Now might be your time to be happy, but we all have our cross to bear. And I think if you enjoy the times that you have to be happy, it will give you the strength to handle whatever will come your way, and none of us escape.
Well said. And Sky, I think it goes back to selfishness too. This idea that if we're happy, we're making ourselves happy, we might be selfish. And I think that, if we look at just the world around us that we can impact directly, selfishness isn't doing things for ourselves that makes us happy. Selfishness is when we do things for ourselves at the expense of other people that make us happy, right? So we have to think about that when we're kind of checking ourselves and whether or not what we're doing is having a negative impact on someone else.
I'm going to say something right quick that I think what we're starved for right now is very little of this. And let's have face-to-face conversations. Let's get back to being ourselves, being in groups, and not having masks on, to see somebody's expression of a smile, a sadness, or whatever it might be. And I think as we move through and into a more open society, as we get out into springtime, at least in the Northeast, and people are out together. I mean, there's a lot more of that probably in the South right now. I think every American, every person in the world just wants to be around people and be able to have that conversation, whatever it might be, just to be able to feel that they're involved in something and really belong. And one last thing I want to say before I get off, Sky, belated happy birthday.
Oh, yes.
Happy birthday.
And Jake too.
That's right. Yeah.
What?
Happy birthday.
Yes, yesterday.
Sorry, Jake.
it's March 11, March
Your
12.
birthday.
March 11, March 12. Happy birthday, Jake.
Well,
Oh, wow.
and so this is, I promise that this will be the last passage I read, but I think it helped me understand how my brain works a little bit. So this ties into this. So there's obviously always going to be something in the world that will upset us and, or could. And so Sean in the book writes about the Tetris effect. I just want to read a couple paragraphs of this so we can understand his perspective.
Razzie, come here, Razzie. Razzie, here.
Oh,
So does everyone know what the game Tetris is, where you try to line up all the different shapes coming down the screen, and once you get the line disappears? Okay. So in a study at Harvard Medical School Department of Psychiatry, researchers paid 27 people to play Tetris for multiple hours a day, 3 days in a row. Whenever I mention this to students, they can't believe they missed an opportunity to play video games for pay, but wait until you hear about the side effects. For days after the study, some participants literally couldn't stop dreaming about shapes falling from the sky. Others couldn't stop seeing those shapes everywhere, even in their waking hours. Quite simply, they couldn't stop seeing their world as being made up of sequences of Tetris blocks. One Tetris addict wrote about his own experience in the Philadelphia City paper. Walking through the aisles of the local Acme, trying to decide between Honey Nut or the new Frosted Cheerios, I noticed how perfectly one set of cereal boxes would fit in with the gap on the row below it. Running doggedly around the track at the Y, bored out of my mind, I found myself focusing on the brick wall and calculating which directions I'd have to rotate those slightly darker bricks to make them fit with the uneven row of dark bricks a few feet lower down the wall. Going out to get some fresh air after hours of work, I rub my watery, stinging eyes, look up at the Philadelphia skyline, and wonder if I flipped the Victory building on its side, would it fit into the gap between Liberty 1 and 2? Gamers soon took to calling this bizarre condition the Tetris effect. What's going on here? Are Tetris addicts temporarily insane? Not at all. The Tetris effect stems from a very normal physical process that repeated playing triggers in their brains. They become stuck in something called cognitive affirmage. You know those blue and green dots that cloud your vision every few seconds after someone takes a flash photograph of you? This happens because the flash has momentarily burned an image into your visual field, so you look around at the world, you see the same light pattern everywhere. When these kids played Tetris for an extended period, they similarly became stuck with something clouding their vision. In this case, a cognitive pattern that caused them to involuntarily see Tetris shapes wherever they looked, just as Grand Theft Auto had made this author involuntarily see cars to steal. This isn't just a vision problem. Playing hour after hour of Tetris actually changes the wiring of the brain. Specifically, as subsequent studies found, the consistent play was creating new neural pathways, new connections that warped the way they viewed real life situations. To be sure, this would be great news if these students were training for the Tetris tournament, but it proved extremely maladaptive when they were doing non-Tetris activities. And let's face it, very few jobs require obsessive Tetris playing. That's the way it is with our brains. They very easily get stuck in patterns of viewing the world, some more beneficial than others. But of course, the Tetris effect isn't just about video games, and we're about to explain in more detail. It's a metaphor for the way our brains dictate the way we see the world around us. So
neuroplasticity of the brain.
Correct. So we're literally creating that pattern for ourselves and what can break it? What can break it? So thoughts or actions around actually trying to help, changing the channel. I don't know. Those are rhetorical statements and comments and questions, but I think that brings a little context to how this can maybe potentially create a very dangerous pattern in our brains.
So Jake, is this saying that happiness is in part tied to the way that we perceive the world around us?
Yeah, the patterns that we create. I think the point he was driving towards is more on the negative side of things. So the happiness advantage gets further away, the more we're conditioning our brain to look at patterns of negative information, like the news, for example. So keeping any news channel of your choice on for 4 hours a day, we're burning that into our brain. Reading the news for 15 minutes a day, arguably not. But I think his point's more towards if the ticker's on all day long next to you, we're burning that into our brains. That's gonna be hard for our brains to overcome that.
Good point.
So what are some of the things that we could do to raise our level of happiness? Because I think that there's some clearly defined strategies and tactics around how we can do that. Some pretty simple things. Actually, Jake shared this with me, and Jake, if you have the link to that TED Talk, and you can put it in the chat that you sent me.
Yeah, let me do that.
It was pretty brilliant and funny, so worth the 10-minute watch for sure. But there are certain things that we could do to make ourselves happier, right? Physical exercise is one of the most popular ones that you hear all the time. Mind and body being connected, meditation, journaling, gratitude, eating healthy. So these things can actually help us raise our level of happiness, because we all have a baseline level of happiness. Everybody has that, right? And sometimes we fall below it, sometimes we can get above it, but eventually we're either regressing or progressing back to the average, back to the mean. So in order to raise that bar, we can do these things, and it'll actually make our base level of happiness higher.
Be with people who make you laugh.
Yeah. I was going to say, Gail, so Sean, when he was doing his keynote, did an experiment with us where, so for anyone in this Zoom who has a partner, maybe do this after you hop off the call. One of the partners imagines themselves in a very awful situation where they would never be smiling. The other partner smiles at them while directly looking into their eyes from 3 feet apart, just smiling at them. And I will bet you $100 that the partner who's not smiling won't make it more than 7 seconds. And to your point, Gail, just be around people that are smiling. Start there. You know, I mean, it literally is contagious. And the room, there's 15,000 people in the room and everyone was dying because you just couldn't do it. So
I'll
I
say something,
go ahead,
you know.
Jessica.
Hi, everybody. So one of the things that I've evolved over the years is the language that I use, the everyday language that I use. So I'm generally a positive person. And so I've adapted language, you know, when you call somebody, instead of saying, is it a bad time? You say, is it a good time? And, you know, any opportunity to rephrase something. So if I'm typing an email to somebody and it can be just, you know, just the tiniest thing. But there's usually a way to phrase something in the positive. And I'm not trying to, you know, to go overboard with it, but it's like showing up with a smile or not showing up with a smile. It's that kind of thing.
Yeah, I'm with you, Jessica. And frankly, that comes back to just awareness, right? Like pausing for a minute before we hit the send button, not just typing feverishly and hitting it and just thinking. I remember there's times I'd be walking I used to walk to work in Philadelphia and I'd walk down the street and have a moment of awareness. And I was like, why am I frowning? I was just frowning. Maybe it's Philadelphia. I don't know. But you know, then I would start smiling and then things change. So it's these pattern interrupts, which is exactly the kind of the thought behind this whole reason we're sitting here on a Sunday night together. Pattern interrupt our Sunday nights so we can be around people who are smiling and happy and let's learn something new, and pattern interrupt our normal Sunday night routines to hopefully create more awareness, passion, connection, etc. Or pleasure, engagement.
So Jake, one thing I do to jump in for a second and ties a few things together. I started probably 7-8 years ago. You know, as you know, like kind of normally when you jump on a call, there's a little bit of small talk. Oh, how you doing? Busy, great, etc. And I've started, as much as I can, when people ask like, how are you doing? I just say a lot to be thankful for. And two things happen. One, I generally feel better about that because it usually gives me a minute to say, like, actually, what am I thankful for? I know I just said that automatically. What am I thankful for? And once in a while, maybe like 1 out of 5 times, like the conversation will actually gear towards, oh, so what are you thankful for today? Like someone actually catches that and that opens up a conversation. And like sometimes like the first 5-10 minutes of a conversation is just purely about like what's going well this week, which is a great way to start and kind of like spread a little bit of joy and gratitude to people.
Yeah. And one thing I've learned from you is I've attended many meetings with you now. And I love when you start a meeting, you just ask a random question too of the group. You know, what was your favorite moment from high school, or, you know, favorite condiment? I think was one of the discussions that got heated.
It was what is, and I'm sorry, this is going to trigger Sunny, but what is your least favorite condiment? Yeah. That starts a great conversation.
Yeah. But again, pattern interrupts, right? How you doing? I'm great. How are you? Great. Okay, let's get down to it. Like, that's boring. Who wants that? So Sean's book, The Happiness Advantage, it's a great read. The TED Talk is also wonderful for those that want to just see. He's just a, as you would imagine, just a super happy guy, and has some wonderful stories. So I urge you to check that out. And we're going to continue this discussion. I really appreciate everyone diving in and leaning into this, and love the comments in the chat too. And looking forward to continue on as we go. And again, if there's folks you want to bring to the group as speakers or have interesting concepts or talks, we'd love to have them. So please keep us in mind and reach out through the website or directly through the chat box now. So I look forward to seeing you next weekend when Hal joins us.
Thank you.
Thanks for the lively discussion. Wish everyone a wonderful evening and a lot of presence and harmony.